Hello everybody, welcome back to another video with Lim Reviews. Now today I'm here to share with you something pretty interesting in my opinion. I have on one hand the Xiaomi 11T and on the other, this is one of my favorites, the OnePlus Nord 2. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my personal experience after using both devices here for quite a while now. In fact, the OnePlus Nord 2 has been with me for I think more than 1 month. But yeah, this is going to be a very quick video on a side-by-side comparison between the 11T and the OnePlus Nord 2. Now in this video, I'm not going to be taking a lot of B-rolls of the device to show you how beautiful they are. I'm going to be focusing on just sharing with you my actual experience. So in this video, I hope it helps you out in terms of choosing which is the right device for you. Now before I begin, of course, if you can still hit that like button or sub to the channel to see more of my kitchen and stuff here, that would be very much appreciated. Now without further ado, let's just jump into the video and talk a little bit more about these devices here. Now the first thing I want to talk about here is the price. So the reason why I'm comparing both devices together is not only because they cost around the same price, but also because they share the same or similar processor. So the Mi 11T on one hand here, I don't have the official price as of today, but based on the previous 10T pricing, I'm expecting it to be about 1,700 ringgit or approximately $400 US. Now the OnePlus Nord 2, this was not launched in Malaysia officially, but I did manage to get my device from a third-party seller for approximately 1,800 ringgit. So that's very close in terms of pricing to the Mi 11T here. So now that we've got the price out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the next thing here, and that is design. Now, you've already seen the 11T here in so many videos that I've done on the channel. You already know how it looks. I've said a couple of times now that this is a little bit chunky, it is a bit thick, and it is a bit heavy as well because it is approximately 204 grams. So this is the kind of design that you can get on the 11T. Of course, you also have that familiar design with the camera cutout. This is very similar to most of the recent Xiaomi devices being launched. That camera cutout at the top here, but overall it is a solid device here, and design wise it is really subjective based on what you prefer. Now on the other hand, the OnePlus Nord 2 here is a very much slimmer device. It is also more lightweight, about 15 grams lighter than the 11T, so you definitely feel that difference in weight in your hands. Apart from that, I do appreciate the fact that it is in a slimmer form factor. It is not to say super slim to the fact that you can't hold it comfortably, but it's slim to the point where I feel it's just the right size. So overall, if you ask me which is my personal preference, I would go with the OnePlus Nord 2 because not only is it slimmer, it's lighter, but I also prefer the design on this back here, and of course, that matte gray color, which I've always said I like a lot on the OnePlus Nord 2. Alright, so now the next thing we're going to talk about here is the displays at the front. Now once again, like I mentioned, this device here, the 11T, it comes with a 6.67-inch AMOLED display that runs at 120Hz refresh rate. Now on the other hand here, the OnePlus Nord 2 is a little bit smaller. It comes with a 6.43-inch AMOLED display as well and only comes with 90Hz refresh rate. Apart from that, both devices here have HDR10+, but in terms of protection levels, the 11T here comes with the better Corning Gorilla Glass Victus, whereas the Nord 2 only comes with the Corning Gorilla Glass 5. Alright, so that's just in terms of the numbers. In terms of actual daily use, I must say that the 11T here did provide a better experience in the sense that it is much more fluid. The sensitivity on this device here is definitely a notch above the one on the OnePlus Nord 2. However, that's not to say that it is winning it completely. In terms of display, I do prefer the display quality. That means the colors and the whiteness and the color accuracy of the OnePlus Nord 2 over the 11T. So I am a little bit inclined to the OnePlus Nord 2, but I must give the win to the 11T because it's just that much better. Now let's move on to the next point here and talk very quickly about performance. So performance-wise, I did mention earlier on in the video that both devices here are using the Dimensity 1200 processor. Again, they both come with 8GB of RAM and 128GB of UFS 3.1 storage. However, what I do need to point out here is that after doing a benchmark test, the Geekbench 5, for both devices here, I noticed that the results on the OnePlus Nord 2 was significantly higher than the results that I was able to get on the 11T. I'm not sure why that's happening, but that is the case. Now, I always say that benchmark scores are benchmark scores, and in real world use, which is actually better? Now, I must admit to you, after using both devices here, app launch speeds, the way the apps react, the way your games will react, are very similar on both devices right here. You will not find a major difference in terms of which one is actually faster than the other. However, one very important thing that you need to know here is that That is the difference between the software. So on the 11T right here, we have your very familiar MIUI. If you are a Redmi, Poco, Xiaomi user, you'll be very familiar with the OS on this device right here. But for the OnePlus Nord 2, it is running on the Oxygen OS. For me, I personally prefer the one on the Oxygen OS because it is just a little bit more cleaner. It doesn't come with too many cluttered features and all that, so it's very simple and basic for me to use. Again, this is very subjective. If you prefer MIUI, you will like the one on the 11T. But if you prefer a cleaner kind of OS, very nice UI, then the one on the OnePlus Nord 2 is slightly better. One more thing I do need to point out here is that whenever you use the 11T, it tends to get a little bit warmer when I play games. I'm not sure if it's because of that back panel right here, whereas the back panel on the OnePlus Nord 2, it might be a little bit thicker than the one on the 11T. So I do not feel as much heat coming through the back panel here compared to the 11T. So that's just something that I noticed after gaming on both devices. Now let's move on to the next thing, and I think this is a major difference between both devices, and that is in the cameras. Now on the 11T, let's start with this guy first. We do have a 108 megapixel main sensor. You also have an 8 megapixel ultra wide and a 5 megapixel tele macro lens. Now we're going to focus on the main sensor, which is the 108 megapixel sensor. Alright, before that, let's check out what we have on the OnePlus Nord 2. Now on this device here, we have a 50 megapixel main sensor, and bear in mind that this sensor is a much larger sensor than the one on the 11T, although its resolution is less than half. So what that means is that it's able to pull in more light, it is able to give you that more natural background blur, and overall you will expect much better image quality from this 50 megapixel sensor here. Alright, but never mind, let's talk about the image quality on both devices here. Now in terms of daylight shots and night shots, let me just summarize it to just a few sentences. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but you can check out the display right now because I'll be showing you a comparison side-by-side view between both devices here. But overall, the image quality coming out from the 50 megapixel on the OnePlus Nord 2 is just so much more excellent compared to the one on the 11T. I would say that it's a very clear-cut winner in terms of the camera here. The OnePlus Nord 2 has a much stronger camera sensor compared to the one on the 11T. Now, enough of the cameras, let's move on to the next point and let's talk a bit about the batteries. So obviously, like I mentioned earlier on, the 11T is a little bit thicker, and that's because obviously it comes with a bigger battery. We have a 5000 mAh battery in here, whereas the OnePlus Nord 2 only comes with a 4500 mAh battery. Now, let's talk about day-to-day use. Both devices are definitely able to pull me through one full day on a single charge, but I did notice that the 11T was able to take me to 1.5 days on certain occasions. So battery life longevity wise, definitely the 11T here is stronger. However, let's talk about charging speeds. Both devices actually are able to charge up fairly quickly. Now on the 11T here, it supports 67 watt fast charge, whereas on the OnePlus Nord 2 here, it supports 65 watt fast charge. And both devices here take slightly more than 30 minutes to get from 0 to 100%. So very similar in terms of charging speeds and charging time here. Now, on to the final point. Two more things I want to talk about here. Very quickly, let's talk about the stereo speakers on both devices here. Now, I can't really play back a video here or an audio clip for you to judge, but very quickly, I'm going to tell you what's the real difference. Both devices actually do get very loud, but the one on the 11T is not as loud as the one on the Nord 2. Now what I mean by that is the bottom firing speaker on the 11T is actually quite loud, but the front one through this earpiece at the top is not that loud. On the other hand, the one on the OnePlus Nord 2 is actually very strong, both at the bottom and the earpiece at the front. So when you listen to music on the OnePlus Nord 2, you will feel a very strong audio coming from the front of your device. Whereas on the 11T, when you listen to music on the speakers here, you will feel it coming from the bottom and not front facing. So it's a very different audio experience for both devices here. Now last but not least, let's talk very quickly about the haptics, because those are also stuff that I like to cover here. So for the 11T right here, we have the X-axis haptics engine, which is of course the best one that you can get in the market. Whereas for the OnePlus Nord 2, I'm not too sure. I can't get the info on the haptics engine here. If I'm not mistaken, it might be the Z-axis, which is one rank below the X. But regardless, if you just must have the best haptics, you can find that in the 11T. But the one on the OnePlus Nord 2 isn't that bad at all. Alright guys, bottom line, which one would you choose? The 11T or the OnePlus Nord 2? Well, in my opinion here, if I have to choose between one device, I will have to go with the OnePlus Nord 2. And the reason for that is, number one, of course, that is because of design. I prefer this matte black kind of design. The color is just my personal favorite color. Apart from that, I also personally prefer a slimmer device and a lighter device that is also easier to handle in one hand. Now, apart from that, me personally, I take a lot of photos, so I definitely appreciated the 50 megapixel Sony IMX766 sensor at the back here. That is very important for my daily use. But if you need a larger battery, you want that faster refresh rate display, and of course you are okay with this design as well, then the 11T is also definitely a winner to you. But in this case, for my choice, I will go with the OnePlus Nord 2. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I definitely need to go and drink some water now, but I hope you have learned something from this video. If you did, don't forget to like this video. Stay tuned to the channel for more interesting content like this, and I'll see all of you in the next one in my kitchen right here. Stay safe everybody. Bye!